Hello everybody, it's Mr. Second Amendment, and today we are doing a condition of carry video. Alright, so I get a lot of questions about, Mr. Second Amendment, how do I carry round in the chamber or not? Or I have this type of gun, what should I do? Alright, so there's a couple ground rules that are going to come with this video. First of all, yes, I do believe in carrying with a round in the chamber. I do not believe in carrying unloaded guns. If you want more on that, I could do a separate video, and it's not to bring down the guys who carry without a round in the chamber, but I do believe carrying with a round in the chamber, and that's going to require a durable, quality, trustworthy gun with safety features on it that allow for that, and it is designed for that to be done safely and effectively and successfully in a quality holster. All right, so I have 4 holsters I'm going to show here. I got a huge box of holsters, but I brought these out because I want to show 2 good holsters and 2 bad holsters while we're doing this. All right, the second thing you got to know is I don't have every single gun that is on the market that either you are carrying or are thinking about for concealed carry. But I brought these 4 out specifically because I figured that they would do a good job of kind of representing what is out there, all right, with the way that they work. So first we have the double action revolver. All right, so this is capable of single action and double action. All right, in an actual defensive encounter, you would be using this in double action. Now, chances are there's not a lot of you that are carrying a K-frame 4-inch 357 out there. It's probably more like a Ruger LCR or some kind of J-frame Smith & Wesson. But this is going to stand in for that. Okay, the next thing that I have, and you can kind of see we're moving up through time and technology and advancements as time went on. All right, so the next one I got is the single action only semi-automatic pistol. In this case, we have the 1911. All right, so chances are you probably are not carrying a full-size government all-steel 45 1911, but you might be carrying something like it or thinking about it, so it's out here. All right, next, up the technological ladder and through time, we have the double single action pistol, in this case a Beretta 92F. This is also going to stand in for something like a Sig Sauer 229, 226, 220, SP22. There's some HKs that will be represented here. And anything basically, even a double action only pistol can find representation here. And we'll get into that. And then lastly, kind of moving up the ladder of time and technology, we have a striker fired pistol. All right, now the end user, the experience that you're going to have on this kind of gun is going to feel like or kind of act like a single action only pistol, but properly with what's going on in this gun and how it actually functions, this is a striker fired gun. In this case, this is a Glock with their safe action design. All right, so anyway, let's get to it. How would we carry these guns? All right, so with the revolver, all right, and this, I just want to say that this is only going to cover your modern double action style revolvers. This is not going to stand in for a single action if there's somebody out there that for some reason in 2019 is still carrying a single action revolver. The methods are going to be a little different on how you would want to carry that, but this is just going to concern ourselves here with a modern double action style of revolver. All right, so how would we do that? All right, so we got our rounds. These are all snap caps, great training tool. Highly recommended if you guys don't have them or if you want to do some dry fire practice at home and whatnot. Okay, so we can load individually each chamber of the cylinder if we want, or you can use a speed loader of some kind. This one's a Safariland. I also got HKS. Or you can use a moon clip if the gun takes those. All right, but you load up all the cylinders. Okay, so now we have all the chambers of the cylinder are loaded up. All right, now with revolver etiquette here, we're going to hit that crane and then index. All right, and now this is what we got. Okay, so the last step of the road is to put it in our holster. All right, this is going to be an example of a bad holster. All right, so I'm going to get this in. Okay, this is some kind of generic shoulder rig. All right, we do not have good trigger coverage there. All right, you shouldn't be able to see that much like that. And we're kind of maxing out on how much size. So that's kind of an aside that's not necessarily part of the video, but I did want to bring out some examples of good and bad holsters. I would consider this bad. It does have retention though. All right, but whatever holster you got, once you've loaded your revolver like that, you would go ahead and put it away in the holster. And that's how you would load this one up. All right, as a side note on all of this, even if you're going to have a little J-frame or a Ruger LCR, kind of a pocket pistol, purse pistol, I would still recommend some kind of pocket holster or some kind of holster for it. I'm not a fan of just loading up a revolver and just throwing it in a pocket. All right, so I just wanted to make sure I mention that before we move on. All right, so now we have the 1911, all right, the single action only semi-automatic pistol, in this case being a 1911. Okay, lots of different issues and beliefs on what we're going to do here. Okay, I'm going to go with how this gun mechanically works and how it was designed to be carried. All right, and this is the only recommended method that I have for this kind of gun. All right, so we take our magazine, load up our mag, we're going to chamber around, and we're going to, by the way, we're doing all of this for all of these guns in a safe direction. All right, so I'm going to insert the mag, chamber it, and now I immediately need to do something here, and that is to put the safety on. I got to kick that safety on. All right, so the end result of where we're at now is I have a round in the chamber, the magazine is fully loaded, the hammer is in the cocked position, and the safety is on. Okay, in the 1911 world, we call this cocked and locked. All right, that is the only way to carry this gun if you want to be safe and effective about it. All right, there is another method to do it. I'm not even going to show it on camera because I think it's horrendously unsafe. All right, this is how we do it. Now the last step we can do here, and that's not just for the 1911, this is going to be for all the semi-autos. The last step is once we've gotten to this point, we can take out the magazine and we can go ahead and top off that last empty spot there in the mag for another round. Insert magazine again. All right, so now the end result is, on this particular gun, round in the chamber, hammer is cocked, weapons on safe, magazine is fully loaded and inserted into the gun. All right, now the last step of the road here is we're gonna put it into our holster. All right, now this is what I consider a great holster. This is an Incog made by G-Code, inside the waistband, Kydex holster. Again, I have a huge box of holsters. Once I got this one, I just stopped buying 1911 holsters. Okay, great fit, everything else. So that's just kind of a side note. But yes, this is how we're rocking the 1911 all day. Okay. Okay, so now we got the double single action pistol. Okay, so how are we going to work with this? Now this is particularly a 92F from Beretta. I'll talk about how we do this on a SIG or something similar along those lines. All right, so what we're going to do, again in a safe direction, insert magazine, chamber the round. All right, in the case of the Beretta, we are going to put that on fire. All right, and then we can top off our mag. But at this point, the end result is we have a round in the chamber. The hammer was safely decocked in the forward position, and in this case, it's manually placed on fire if it has a manual safety. And we have a magazine that is fully loaded. All right, and last step of the road here is we're going to insert it into our bad holster. This is a Blackhawk Serpa. That probably deserves its own video, but not the biggest fan of this. But there it is. All right. Anyway, that's how we do it. Now, if you had a SIG, all right, let's use a SIG as an example, like a 229, 226, 220 kind of pattern. All right, the way that we would handle that, all right, because it does not have a manual safety, it actually has a frame-mounted decocker, and that's all it does is just decocks, and it's spring-loaded. So if we had a SIG or something of that variety, we would take our magazine, insert mag, chamber the round. Now, in this case, just like a 1911, where we have a momentary pause, we have a situation where there is a round in the chamber and the hammer is cocked. So we are in a situation right now that we need to decock safely. So on a SIG pattern, it's a frame-mounted, spring-loaded decocker. So I would hit it, and then the second I get off the decocker, it would spring load itself back up. All right, but whatever type or design or kind of double single action you have, the end result that we are looking for is a round in the chamber with the hammer safely decocked forward. If it's a Beretta, it's with a manual safety, it's on fire, and we have a magazine that is inserted. All right, and the last step of the road here, if we're not going to top off the magazine, is we're going to put it in the holster, and that's how we chill in the holster all day, just like that. All right, now we're going to move on to our modern striker-fired gun. All right, in this case, Glock 19X. Okay, so if you noticed, there's kind of been a progression of technology, and we're going to get back to that. But now we have the modern striker-fired. So what I do is insert magazine, chamber the round. All right, and there's nothing special here. There's no safety I have to put on. There's no decocker. There's none of that stuff. We simply just chambered a round. All right, we can go ahead and we could top off our magazine, get that last round in there. All right, end result, we have a round in the chamber. The magazine is fully loaded. All right, last step of the road here. It's going in a great holster. So far, it's been great. All right, this is the Black Hawk Omnivore. It actually indexes on the light. So if you have one light that you put on different weapons, all right, it's going to work with all kinds of handguns that you got. And I love it so far. So with enough time, I'll eventually get to a review on that. All right, but yeah, that is how we properly walk around and carry with the striker-fired gun, just like that. All right, so now the last thing we're going to do here is how would this look if we need to use the gun and then reholster it? What does that look like? All right, so for the revolver, we're going to pull it out of the holster and we're just going to start using it. All right, so we're doing our double action shots. Okay, if we need to reload, we'll go ahead and reload, maybe top it off. If it's the end of the engagement, we're going to top it off. All right, and then we're going to put it back in the holster. All right, so the beauty of this is that there's no safeties or decockers or anything I have to do. I pull it out of the holster, it's ready to shoot, and I'm doing it. Once I'm done, I can top it off or whatever, and I just put it back in the holster as is. Okay, so that's the great thing about this, is there's nothing I have to do after I bring it out of the holster, and there's nothing I have to do when I'm putting it back in the holster. All right, so back in the holster it'll go. Again, kind of a bad example of a holster. Okay, now for the 1911, what does that look like if we're actually going to use it? All right, so we pull it out of the holster, and now there is something I have to do to make this ready. All right, so and that is to kick off the safety, and now it's ready to shoot. Okay, so there's two ways to deal with this. Method number one, which is kind of the old school method, which I don't use, but I'm going to throw it out there if you're curious, is it comes out of the holster, and once you clear yourself, I choose about 45 degrees is when I kick it off safe. All right, so it's coming out of the holster. All right, you can kick it off safe and then hold down your right thumb and proceed to shoot. And the reason why you're doing that is under recoil, you don't want to accidentally kick it back on safe. All right, so that's the old school way of doing it, is shooting with the right thumb being held down. My preferred method though is it comes out of the holster, and not only do I kick it off safe, but I actually ride on top. I'm riding on top of that safety as I'm shooting. All right, so we're gonna be shooting. All right, we shoot whatever we shoot. Maybe we're gonna do a reload and top it off. All right, and when it's going back in the holster, it's coming down, and we have to remember to kick it back on safe, and then it goes back in the holster. All right, so that is how we are going to successfully use the single action only semi-automatic pistol, this case being a 1911. Okay, so now we move on to our double single action pistol. What is going on here? All right, so I'm walking around just like this. I need it, pull it out of the holster. All right, and the beauty of this is there's nothing I have to do when it's coming out of the holster. It is ready to go. So all I have to do is present it and start shooting. Now that first shot is going to be that double action trigger pull. Okay, so there's going to be some weight and there's going to be some length on that trigger. But once it finally goes off, all right, everything after that is now a single action trigger pull for the rest of the magazine. Okay, so the advantage of this, the double single action, and this is kind of where we were at in the 80s, this is how it had to be done, but the advantage here is there's nothing I have to do when it's coming out of the holster. I just pull it out and go, just like the old school police revolver. All right, but the downside is I have to train for two very different types of trigger pulls. The first round of the engagement is going to be that double action trigger pull, and now everything else is going to be single action. Okay, so that is kind of the downside that you take on with the Beretta or the double single action pistol. All right, now when the engagement's over, or I need to move, or I just want to reholster, whatever the case may be, what I need to do here is decock it. Now, if I had a Sig Sauer, I would just get off the decocker. It would spring load back up and I'd be fine. But on the Beretta, I decocked it, and now I put it back on fire, and now I go ahead and reholster. All right, so that's kind of the disadvantage there, is I got two different trigger pulls I have to train for on the double single action gun. And the second disadvantage is there's something I have to do, just like the 1911. Before I reholster, I have to do something. All right, so that's how the double single action works. All right, moving on to the modern striker fired gun. Okay, now I'm just talking about the progression here. So we started here. This was kind of your main law enforcement gun. Actually, specifically, the Model 19 was very prevalent for decades. All right, so we had the revolver, and we liked the fact that it was great, that we didn't have to do anything to it when it came out of the holster. But the downside was you only had 6 shots. Okay, and then when it was time to reload, that could be kind of a mess. All right, so then we moved to semi-auto. So the advantage here is we had magazine capacity, we had quicker mag changes and reloads. It was great. All right, but the downside here is we got to remember to do something when it comes out. We got to kick it off safe, and we got to remember to put it back on safe when it's going back in the holster. All right, so good training. This is all going to be muscle memory, but these are things that matter when it comes to safe and effective use of these guns. All right, so now we're moving into the 80s, all right, and it's like, hey, we have a lot of cops that are coming from the revolver world, okay, and we're trying to get them onto the semi-auto world that haven't been there yet. We love semi-auto because we're getting the quick reloads. We have the magazine capacity, especially with 9mm now. That's great. Okay, but we want something that is ready to go out of the holster, but how do we achieve that? How do we get this done? And then doing the double action first and then moving in the single action, that was kind of the way to do it back then. All right, so you can kind of see we're stepping up the ladder and how this is working. The downside here really is we got those two different trigger pulls we have to train for. And the last disadvantage is we have to decock and put it back on fire, or if it's just a SIG, that kind of pattern, we have to remember to decock and put it back in the holster. All right, so that's kind of, but the benefit at the time is you get the, the high capacity, you get the quick mag changes, it's all good. And it wasn't that bad because you got cops who are coming off of the double action only world moving in the semi-auto. So that's kind of how things were done. That's how you would achieve it. All right, moving into the modern era of striker fired. Okay, so how's this going to work? We pull it out of the holster and we very simply just start using it. All right, and that is how we use it. So we're shooting. Okay, now when it's time to reholster, the beauty of this as well is there's no decocking, there's no manual safety that needs to go on. All right, this just goes back in the holster. All right, and that's what we do. Okay, so we've kind of come full circle, sort of, with back to the old school way of doing it, where you didn't have to do anything when you brought it out of the holster, and you didn't have to do anything before you put it back in and reholstered. All right, and that's where we are today, except we've kind of gotten the best of all worlds, that we have, quick magazine changes and semi-auto mag capacity and all the wonderful things we love from semi-auto. All right, but we don't have to deal with a manual safety. We don't have to deal with, decocking and two different trigger pulls. All right, we got the same trigger pull every single time. Okay, so that is where we're at on these main types of different guns. That is how you would properly, safely, and effectively carry these guns. That is how they were designed to be carried. So hopefully this has been informative. Definitely encourage, and can't wait for some comments on here. But that is how we carry these types of guns. And I hope between these 4 different examples that your gun was represented here. So thanks for watching.